Welcome to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. Jim Chandler along with Justin Bradford and Jeremy K. Gover. We are talking about The Flash.
So you're saying you could travel back in time?
But Bruce, I can fix things. I could save people. I could save my mom. I could save your parents.
So Barry has the ability to not only slow things down, but actually go back in time and maybe correct some of the things of his life and others that he wants to change. And let's get some initial thoughts in a second. But first, I want to tell you, coming up, our big question is a big silly question. If you too could go back in time, what silly little inconsequential thing would you change in the past?
Seemingly inconsequential.
Right. The butterfly effect is still real.
Yes.
Who knows what the consequences would be, but if you didn't care. So start thinking of your responses now. We'll give you ours coming up. The Flash. Let's get our initial takes. Justin Bradford, what'd you think?
Okay, this is the best DCEU film. That is not saying much. I think as we all know.
That's an important. Hold on, I want to make sure that just clarify.
Yeah, yep.
DCEU film.
Yeah.
So not the Dark Knight trilogy.
Correct.
Not
Right.
the Batman.
Correct. That's why I say DCEU.
I just want to make
Those
sure
don't
we're
count
all
in
on the
this
same
one.
Those don't
page.
count.
All
This
right.
is in terms of like Man of Steel, Justice League,
Yes.
Batman,
Correct.
Superman, all those. This
Wonder
is the-
Woman.
Yes.
1984. Obviously.
Oh, God, don't.
Sorry.
We try not to talk about
This
it.
is the best DCEU film, but it is extremely problematic thanks to Ezra Miller and what they've done in their past and what they've done post-filming and everything of that sort. And we cannot ignore the fact that Ezra Miller is a very big problem, and
Yes.
why there's been so many questions of should this film be released, should this film be come out, what do you do with marketing on this? There's so many problems, and we have to make sure that. Now, I'm not saying separate it either. We don't need to separate film from personal life, because what Ezra Miller has done and been accused of doing directly affects so many people, real people in the world.
Yes.
That I cannot separate the film from those actions. Now, that doesn't affect my review of the film in general, but I want to make sure that people listening understand how important it is that we address that Ezra Miller is a problem and very problematic.
We're not ignoring that.
We're definitely not ignoring
fully
that.
acknowledging it, and
Yes.
it needs to be said because it's a great point, and it's
It is.
important.
Yes. So, with that, Michael Keaton is what stood out for me in this one. Again, this is a audience-serving DC superfan movie. That's what this does. This is serving the fans. It is very disjointed in so many different ways. It's long as well. There are some parts where it just makes you kind of wonder what's going on. I did like how they kind of explain the multiverse. It's just, when you think about it now, the whole multiverse thing is almost starting to get tiresome.
Yes.
Aside from Across the Spider-Verse, because dear God, that is amazing. But the whole multiverse thing, because we've seen over the past few years now, it's getting tiring. So for DC to add their spin on it, which we knew was coming, it's not like they just all of a sudden decided to do this. We knew it was going to happen. That's where they've been leading to with this. It's just, oh, here's another version of a multiverse coming into play. And it's one of those, they had to just learn. Barry has to learn what the effects are of a multiverse and how they're all different. This is just what the fate is of this universe in this multiverse, blah, 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 blah. It's disjointed. Michael Keaton, though, is why people are going to see this movie. If people are going to see this film, they're going to see Michael Keaton as Batman one more time. One last time, probably. One more time to hear certain lines be said, to see certain actions, to hear certain music.
Facial expressions, everything.
Everything. They're going to the movie for him. That is it. And I think that's going to be enough for people just to see Michael Keaton, because that's what stood out to me. That's what I loved most about this. The movie was long. I'm not saying I hated it. I kind of enjoyed my time watching it because I just wanted to see how they explored this. But it being the best DCEU film is just not enough for me to overall say this was a good movie.
Okay. All right. Jeremy K. Gover, would you allow me to jump in? And,
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. I'm not a fan of the DCEU. Most of the movies have been terrible. I think with the few exceptions, Wonder Woman, the first film, terrific. I think is the best.
I agree.
Okay, I don't think they've done better than that, including with The Flash. I also very much was conflicted and could not look at the character of Barry Allen without thinking of the real life Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller has done some terrible things, allegedly, to many different people. Okay, and there are accusations against a lot of people you see on screen. And it just comes back to me to the old saying, if one person calls you an ass, whatever. If a whole bunch of people are calling you an ass, buy a saddle, because you are. So, like, court of a public opinion is different from a legal court. I have horrible feelings about Ezra Miller as a person. I hope Miller overcomes those things and atones for those things. But I could not ignore those things while watching this movie. It also makes me wonder if some of those problems that they have might also be part of, this is terrible, part of the talent that we see. I mean, we've seen some very troubled actors before where they do think differently, they're odd, they're outside the box, and sometimes that's the thing that makes them special. So I'm not excusing anything Ezra Miller did, but it was a major problem for me, and it took most of the movie for me to kind of just get that out of my head. At the same time, I was generally entertained by this movie. I did see the fan service galore. Everybody that has a Batman love inside them was super serviced. I think anybody who has a Superman love was super serviced in this movie. But all in all, I sort of enjoyed it, and I think I would call this the second best DCEU movie.
I'm not going to add too much more and just go on ad nauseum. I'll just say that I know, of the people in this room, I know the least about Ezra Miller's problems. I've heard, obviously, plenty, okay? But I don't know to the extent of how bad it is. So I was able to go into the theater and see them as an actor, to the point where I'll even say I give them props as an actor because they were able to do two characters.
Yes.
A long time in one movie. It's not like they had one scene and it was kind of this weird.
They acknowledge each other.
Two Barry Allens. Different ways they've been brought up.
Throughout 40% of the film.
Yeah.
That takes some chops. So I need people to understand I'm not condoning anything they've done. I'm simply saying that I'm judging the film only.
Right.
And they did a great job on screen with both characters. I'm leaving it at that.
Okay, we've gone surface level. Let's go below the surface on The Flash. What did you think? Give us more on the on-screen stuff that we saw. Let's go back to Justin Bradford.
Okay, so I dropped the whole Michael Keaton thing in my initial take, and I feel like, to me, I was cheering at the screen when I finally saw Michael Keaton and delivering some memorable lines. But what got me the most, and this is all cameo fan service stuff, right? So much of this, and that's my whole point, is the fan service to me felt like this is saying goodbye to the DCEU. Let's get some fan service in here. Let's make some money in the fan service because
the Tim Burton universe,
the Tim Burton universe of it. So my favorite part was hearing the 1989 Batman theme.
I was just going to say
when that played, that was chills to me.
Yep.
Michael Keaton on screen as Batman. I'm Batman. And you hear just the theme playing. I'm like, ooh. That's the one thing that excited me about the movie the most, was him delivering some of those lines. Want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Like, those types of things.
Which I wish they'd left out of the trailer.
100% agree. Do not put the things that are going to make the audience go nuts.
Applause moment had they have left that out and let that be a thing.
But but they're having to do that for the reason, because of Ezra Miller, they're having to sell Batman, right? I mean, we all know that.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I'm simply saying, as an audience member,
it would have been great.
That line fell flat for me, where to the point where I think I looked at Jim with there was like a little breakout of applause right in front of us, and I was like, not because it's not a cool line, it's because we've already seen it.
Spoiled.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I fully agree. And that's where, again, we've had the whole trailer discussion before, right?
Yeah,
Don't spoil moments like that because we know we're going to get something, but we didn't know we're going to get that. So it's already been seen. You can have the side-by-sides we're going to see from the two films. But Michael Keaton and hearing that's what made the movie. And that's what they're banking on so much is these cameos. Obviously, this is a spoiler-full episode. It has to be. It's The Flash. You can't. It's difficult to review this type of movie with a multiverse without spoilers.
We've gotten to the point now in the show where if you have not seen it, you've got to fast forward to the big question because from this point on, it's going to be impossible. So we get Wonder Woman cameo. I thought that was fun as well. The explanation of where the rest of the Justice League is at the very beginning of why they're not helping out. So I do like how they address that because this is when you look at it, their version of what Captain America Civil War type of thing. It's like, well, where are these other people at? What's going on? And how do you bring them together? It's their version of a Justice League 2.5 kind of thing, or Justice League 1.5 is what this really is. Because Aquaman, what's he doing? What's Wonder Woman doing? Oh, she's there. But for them to go off into the multiverse, I really did enjoy those little Easter eggs like that and the cameos. That's what I wanted was fan service out of this, and I got that. That's why it was okay for me.
You know, I really enjoyed the comedic elements of this movie. I thought, even though some of them were old, I saw one comedic element right at the beginning where he's going to save all these babies that are flying out of an, why do they put the babies at the very top of a 200-story building? I don't know. But it was funny, and it reminded me of the original Adam West Batman movie where he's trying to get rid of a bomb, and everywhere he turns, he can't throw the bomb. There's like, oh, there's little children. Oh, there's a group of nuns. You know what I mean? And he's foiled in almost everything he's trying to do to save these babies. Something worse comes along, and he can't do it. And he eventually, obviously, does. But I thought that was a very funny comedic moment for Barry to have to experience. And if that was an intentional nod back to that old Batman movie, the really corny one, I enjoyed that. I think the two Batmans that we see in the film predominantly with, Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, I thought that could be a wreck. But you know what? They each brought what their versions of Batman needed to do to help Barry, right? So we've got, Ben Affleck's Batman was like overly serious, but, he's kind of a mentor. He's got a little bit of a wisdom thing that he's passing along.
He's old Batman.
Yeah. And then we've got Michael Keaton, who's bringing just kind of the fun Batman from the Tim Burton era. And, and he's kicking ass and taking names. And he's doing it really with a smirk on his face.
But Jim, you mentioned the whole baby thing too. I loved how they brought that back for the credits.
Yes.
That plus
that
like
was awesome.
how from a different angle, the dog's angle.
It's just the angle, or just the dog the whole time.
Just the dog the whole time. See what's the dog's view of all this stuff going on around the dog.
I think it matched up.
Yeah.
I think that it was like
a different. Perfect.
Oh, it was great.
Oh, it was great. Like the comedy actually hit in this way more than any other one where they've tried to push the comedy factor in ways that Marvel does. But I think that the writing on this was actually way better compared to, obviously that's why I rank it higher, because the comedy actually hit in this one, and you needed it with Barry Allen's character and just the way that they portray it, so you can't take it too seriously.
Some of your thoughts, Jeremy, go over.
There's just nitpicky things for me, right? So I mean,
no way.
I know it's tough to believe.
It's what we've come to expect and love. And
would Bruce Wayne leave a confidential flash drive in a manila envelope just on his doorstep? It's things like that. It's like, okay, if it's really a top secret thing, why would you just leave it?
I'm sure that the systems that Barry's running, not just anybody can stick the flash drive in.
I understand that, but it actually has signed Bruce Wayne on it.
Okay, but again, you're nitpicking because I'm sure there's encryption protections.
I just said I was nitpicking.
I know, and you're proving how you nitpick because why are you picking that of all things?
I'm just saying I noticed it. That's all. He leaves a manila folder all covertly. Just sitting on the doorstep.
It's encrypted.
There's a note, handwritten, that says Bruce Wayne on it. He writes it.
The flash drive is encrypted. Anybody could write Bruce Wayne in an envelope and leave it at somebody's doorstep.
Okay, that's fair. Some of the comedy did hit, but a lot of it was low-hanging fruit and fell flat for me. But I will also say, as my last comment for this, is that if you go see it in a full theater, like Fast X, actually, but for different reasons for this one, you'll get more enjoyment out of it. Whereas if you go and there's like probably a smattering of people, or you wait to see it on direct or on demand or whatever, buy it in Blu-ray at your local store, bring it home, it's not going to hit the same.
I would almost recommend the opposite.
Really?
Yes, because
it's a very intriguing discussion all of a sudden.
Because I think and not just some of the scenes that we talked about. There is so much fan service, especially with Batman and Superman, that seeing it around super fans took away from me parts of the movie.
Interesting.
Okay, they were a distraction to me, and I'm going to say this as delicately as I can. As a super fan, when you've been served something you've been waiting for, your reaction sometimes can be so over the top that you're laughing so hard that you're taking away from what's happening on the screen, and I'm missing part of the next line. So this is a little bit of my beef with going to movies that are going to super serve their fans. I will purposely seek out a movie where they are not going to be there so I can enjoy it for what it is.
Interesting.
Not for their over enjoyment of what it is.
Okay, well, I will say, contrary to that, my score might be positively impacted because of how we saw it.
Okay.
In a packed room of ticket winners that got to go to an early access screening and see it, and there's super fans everywhere, especially the 4 people in front of us. It was a distraction at moments, because again, right, like there'd be a line you see in the trailer. I'd look at Jim like, what? Why is that? Like, we've seen it, right? So it was distracting in that, right, because it seemed over the top. But overall, it was nice to be, okay, I'm around people that clearly appreciate this movie or that the efforts are taken. I try to take that out of my score, right? But I'm also a human being. I understand that if there's a positive energy or a negative energy.
No, he's not a frou-frou robot, everybody.
No, imagine that. So,
but it does not affect my score. It makes me, if I have the chance, the way I see it, I'll choose the non-super fan.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so do agree with Grover. When watching this again, obviously spoilers here. Seeing it in a crowd, it was also interesting to see and hear if people understood the Easter egg references based on history of DC. Point, Nick Cage.
Yes.
When Nick Cage's Superman appeared on screen, the people that lost it laughing and clapping were people that understood there was a version of Superman being made with Nick Cage that obviously did not hit the screens.
Which is perfect for this movie.
For this movie.
Concept.
Whereas there are a lot of people that are probably just like, okay, cool, I don't get it.
Okay, I didn't get it, but here's what I knew. I knew that Nicolas Cage spends his money foolishly and has gotten into bankruptcy many times, and what he buys are Superman comic books. So to me, that was a nod to this guy he's Nick Cage, and he's also a super fan. So
there's set photos from Nick Cage.
I enjoyed it, without knowing that there was going to be.
Because you still had some history. You still had prior knowledge. People that don't have any prior knowledge, it's not going to mean as much to them, but in a full audience, where you hear them reacting, it's like they get it. Because that's a big deal. Or even it's fun to see the Adam West stuff pop up and different things like that. So they utilized, just like what we've seen in Across the Spider-Verse, of live action and animated, Easter eggs in there from the different universes within multiverse. So I like that fan service part of that, because that's what people right then they want out of those things.
One quick question about this. We have seen now a bunch of movies going into the archives of all the actors that have played those characters before. Is it used up? Have they cannibalized their own canon and history to the point where they should just stop now?
I think they should stop in the way they're currently doing it.
Okay, so they're going to have to reinvent a way to...
No, like in Rogue One, Grand Moff Tarkin, the actor is dead.
Yeah.
He's been dead for years. But they bring him back as a character with lines. They found an impressionist to do it.
Yep.
They got his family to approve it. and they worked out. You can argue about whether it looks good or not. At the time, I had totally bought in. I could not believe Grand Moff Tarkin was on the screen with lines.
It made sense.
Could not believe it. Now I go back and watch it. I'm like, okay, it looks a little rough around the edges, but that's just the time it was. You know, when it came out, it was just to me, it was like, this is amazing.
The tech wasn't as great then, though.
Right. Princess Leia, same thing. Now she said one line, but my point is, in the same movie, at the end, you see her and you're like, holy crap, you know. So what I'm saying is, the way they're doing it, they should stop. Yes. But I think as technology advances, in 2037, when we get a Batman movie, if they want to bring back Adam West with lines and have him do something with the other character, I think that would be pretty sick. So I think it's all about levels.
Yeah. Not lazy. If they do it in a way that serves the story and, you know, makes people happy.
And with respect. We had talked about this with the Fast X episode, actually, in a different way. We're in a superhero, but Paul Walker, right, clearly has passed away.
Yep.
But he's still alive in the Fast X universe.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, Bradford brought that up on the show. So in the final movie, I even said this on the episode, I believe that they're going to find a way to bring him in. I would love to see it. And the technology would be there, you would think, at the time, 3, 4 years from now, whatever it's going to be, where he's sitting in maybe the final shot. He's sitting in the car with Dom, and they're reminiscing about old times into the end credits, something like that. But he's actually talking.
That'd be pretty nice.
You see what I'm saying? Like you could do that. 4 years ago, it would look
terrible,
or they wouldn't even do it. Right. But I think the technology could be someplace where you could eventually be like, all right, that was predictable, but that was not. Like the way they did it, that's all. And I think that hits the reset button on cameos, because now all of a sudden you can do more.
Good answer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I like that answer, Gover.
Surprise, surprise.
Don't even think about touching me.
All right, let's give our scores for The Flash. Let's start with Jeremy K. Gover.
Some of the gags were predictable. Some were excellent, like the baby's falling out of the hospital building. We talked about that. I want to be very clear. I don't hold Ezra Miller against this movie, because the art can stand alone in the artist. The artist can be a total D-bag. That's very true.
Sure.
While the art that they create is excellent.
Okay.
That can happen.
Okay, I do want to throw out then.
Okay.
Is there a line that gets drawn somewhere?
Oh, of course there is.
So if it turns out...
Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know.
So that's why I'm throwing out, because we're into a gray area here. If Ezra Miller had been accused of murder, does the line get drawn there? Aside from abuse?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, I know we're getting into a deep discussion here, but it is worth discussing.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I come back to. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I personally don't believe this, but I know there are a lot of people that do, so I'm going to use the example. Okay. You can believe every accusation against Michael Jackson.
I knew this was coming, too.
Every accusation. If, let's just say you assume that he did everything they say he did.
Right.
Okay? That doesn't mean his songs don't hit. The art is still legendary. It's still amazing. It's still the best of the best. The artist, in this scenario, could be very troubled. Sure. And very not good. But the art is still cream of the crop. Best of the best, top of the world, one of the best to ever do it. That doesn't mean he's excused from the troubles.
Right.
But the art is what you're... No one's at a bar playing Smooth Criminal and being like, this song is awesome, but I hate it because Michael Jackson...
But the art is still directly connected to the person, because if they're getting paid for it...
For sure.
So that's the question of where does the line get drawn?
Then that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
The art itself, as a face value, forgetting everything else about who signed who to this and who was responsible for that, and that person then profited from that. Forget all that. The art itself is what we're talking about, and the art is still great. And the artist is still bad.
I think it's okay for the observer, the third party, which is you or me or anybody else, is to where they personally draw the line is okay. Now, if somebody says, and I've had a lot of comments on my video reviews, there's no way I'm going to see The Flash because of Ezra Miller.
And I support that.
And I said, I respect that.
Yes.
I understand that. It is up to each person individually.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
But it is out there.
It does exist. We watched it to review it. And I'm telling you, It's a solid movie. That doesn't mean that I condone or anything about Ezra Miller. They have problems. The movie has its issues too. Not even close to that. But I'm just saying, like,
Sure.
they have a problem that they need to fix, and I pray that they get better, whatever that means.
Yes.
But the movie still exists. It's still done. It's in theaters. 6.5.
Okay. So
As a human being, 0.0. But as a movie, the art is 6.5.
Right, and I hope for redemption.
Yes,
I hope
for sure.
I hope things get better. But it was to me it was a conflict through a lot of the movie. But I'm gonna judge the movie. A lot of other people were involved in this movie, and they deserve to have their work reviewed.
Yeah.
So this is the way I'm coming at it, it's not just one person. There's literally thousands and thousands of people that worked on this movie, and more than others. I thought David Muschietti did a very good job with this movie. It was a nice goodbye to the Zack Snyder part of this universe. To me, a lot of the comedy hit. I thought the effects were very good. I did not think in the bowl, whatever they called it, where he could go back in time. To me, that was poor. Special effects, but I enjoy the fan service. Even I'm a person who doesn't like too much fan service. I thought they did it pretty well. So I think this was a pretty darn enjoyable movie. Second to Wonder Woman in that category, I'm going to give it a 7.0. Justin Bradford.
All right. I enjoyed the fan service as well. That's what stood out the most to me, which is crazy because a lot of times movies get docked for the fan service unless it's done well. And I think with what they brought in by actually giving the fan service with Michael Keaton an actual role, it was not a cameo. He's a supporting actor in this.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that means that much more that they traveled to a different universe where Michael Keaton is Batman in that universe, and they gave him an actual role to play and gave him a fitting end in that universe that he was in as well. Because obviously the Michael Keaton version exists in multiple universes anyways. As we just know, there's so many different versions of that Batman. So I liked the fan service. I liked seeing the Nick Cage part in there. I liked seeing all the different things during Speed Force when the worlds are colliding and crumbling as well. I liked the fan service in that. So just neat to get those glimpses because we know we're not going to get that again for a while as they're going to explore something different in the James Gunn version as well. I liked Michael Shannon coming back in his role as General Zod and seeing an interview that he did where he even spoke with Zack Snyder and was like, hey, man, you cool if I do this? Because knowing that he's not involved in the project, just respect between actor and director and everything, too, to be involved in a project. I like that. I feel like the more I see of Ben Affleck as Batman, the more I actually like him as Batman. I feel like he kind of fell into the old Batman role to where he's not even curmudgeon-y, but just a mentor role, and he understands his role in that universe now as well. So
I think it was his best performance.
Yeah, it was very short
as Batman.
But that
says something.
But I've enjoyed him more as we've seen it progress. I feel like he kind of fell into that role a little bit better to understand what he was supposed to be doing and pulling off as Batman in general too. I thought the comedy overall was witty. A lot did fall flat, but it was witty. It was probably the funniest DCEU movie in terms of having comedy that actually hit. I give it a 7.0.
Okay, there you have it. The Flash has finally hit theaters after so much anticipation and anxiety. Tell us what you thought. Were you able to separate Ezra Miller from the character? Were you able to enjoy it? Did you like this fan service? Was it too much? Did somebody leave out one of your favorite, let's say, old school Supermen? Right? Just tell us what you think. You can see everything that we've done as far as video episodes, shorter reviews, other things about movies at our brand new website,
Untitled Film Project Pod.com.
Here's the point on the Untitled Film Project podcast where we like to venture off into another area, and let's get a little silly here. So because The Flash was able to not only slow down time, but go back in time, if you guys had the ability to go back in time and you could change something, the stipulation is it's got to be something kind of stupid. Okay, so you can't go back and save a parent. You can't go back and stop Hitler. You've got to go back and change something that is silly. So I'm going to start with you, Justin Bradford. What do you think? What would you do?
So this goes back to my sports broadcasting days, and after I covered the Nashville Predators for Penalty Box Radio in the past 102.5 The Game sports station in Nashville, and post-game, I was riding in an elevator, and this was when the Nashville Predators had beat the San Jose Sharks, and I was riding in an elevator with then coach Pete DeBoer of the San Jose Sharks. They asked where to get to street level to get out of the elevator, which is very weird because typically coaches are not riding the media elevator to go up. They're typically with their teams, getting back on the bus to get ready to go back home or go to a hotel. Come to find out, later that night, I think, or early next morning, that he got fired. So what I want to go back and change, instead of just saying get off at this level, would be like, hey, yeah, it's this level. I can take you. So I could talk to them to see what it would be like, that experience, and maybe get a little bit of a scoop or something, because they could tell they were in bad moods. I would have bought them a beer or something like that, even though I had work to do. I know this is a silly thing, but it would have just been neat, because how often does that happen to somebody riding the elevator, somebody who knows he's getting fired from a head coaching job in the National Hockey League, where you potentially could have been like, no, man, I'll buy you a beer. Looks like you could use one. Yeah. That's just a little silly sports moment, because it could have been a connection made.
A little missed opportunity if you knew.
Yeah, if I knew. But I was able to kind of break that. I was like, I just rode the elevator with Pete DeBoer after a game. Why did this happen? Because that never happens.
Oh, that's funny. If I had to go back in time and change something, I'm going to first mention my good friend Woody, who I've been on air with on radio for years and years. He is often, I'm just going to mention his, because he said he would go back to the point in time where they discontinued Crystal Pepsi and would keep it going. Which, to me, I thought, that is a beautiful example of something so stupid that you could change in time.
And bring back the McDLT too, right?
Right. Hot side hot, cool side cool.
Jason Alexander.
So, I'm not going to go back too far in time. I am going to go back to, just recent history. And I think I would go back and I would somehow give a sign to Elon Musk not to buy Twitter.
I don't know if that's insignificant. That would change a lot of lives.
Okay.
Unlike Bradford, all he would get out of it is like a story. There's not like a whole lot of...
He's going for silly. Jim's going for I want silly.
All right.
Change Twitter.
Okay, right. You're right. I'll stand corrected. I would make sure that peanut butter Captain Crunch was always available, even today. It has been on and off the shelves. Delicious cereal. I could eat it like candy.
Or that Taco Bell never got rid of the Mexican pizza and then brought it back more expensive.
Now I want to change mine.
See, we're starting to think more as we roll here.
I know.
All right.
Jeremy Gover, going back in time, what do you change?
Okay, I'm going to send this to her. In high school, I took a girl out on a date. This will surprise nobody. Very awkward, very antisocial, very much like,
Did you nitpick the whole time?
No. Thank you. No. But you'll love this. I was stubborn, which is where I'm going with the story.
Stubborn.
So her name was Ashley. She goes, yeah, where do you want to go? And I was like, cool, we'll go to dinner first, obviously, then we'll go play miniature golf. She said, that sounds great. And it sounds like a kind of a cookie cutter high school first date, right? Like,
yeah.
You don't know if you're really into each other, but you're good friends. Like, you know each other in class. You're interested in each other, but you don't really know where it's going to go. A dinner where you can talk, and then a miniature golf, little kind of competition. It sounds perfect. Real soft sell, right?
But
we go to Olive Garden. We have a decent meal.
Did you propose at Olive Garden?
This is why it's insignificant, because it never would have went anywhere anyway.
Okay.
That's why I'm going to send it to her and be like, hey, remember this? Okay.
Too many breadsticks.
She's going to be like, no. But that's not the point. So we go to Olive Garden. We talk. Decent time. Nothing great, but nothing bad, right? And then we go to miniature golf. It's raining outside. But I insist, because that's my plan. Dinner and a mini golf.
There was no plan B.
No plan B. I was like, I want to impress her so much. We're doing this. This is the good, kind of soft. I'm not interested in anything else. I'm interested in you. This is going to be really cool. Let's see where this can go, right? And I insisted we went mini golf in the rain. I would change that. I would pivot to something else, a movie or whatever.
You were hoping for some kind of like a Notebook kiss in the rain.
No, I don't
or
think so.
Upside Down Spider-Man.
That could have changed your whole direction in life.
I don't know. That's why it's significant. It never would have went anywhere else. There was nothing about the date that was like oh, this is really great. It was more like she has loud dogs, and I go to pick her up, and I open the door, and they're like dachshunds or something. They're super like small, but they seem big, like ferocious dogs. I remember that, and I remember insisting we go to mini golf anyway, even though it was raining.
Oh, I thought he was going to say insisting we go to Olive Garden. No. And then they have the best Italian food.
And then I dropped her off, and then we were classmates the rest of the year, and that was the end of it. And it never would have went anywhere anyway. We could have had the best first date ever. There was nothing there for either one of us, I'm sure.
So no blue French horn either. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
It's a How I Met Your Mother reference. Come on.
Yeah.
So that's what we would do if we could change time in some stupid, insignificant way. What about you? Tell us your story, because I'm sure it's really good.
What was your date went awry?
Yes, exactly.
Who'd you ride an elevator with?
What Taco Bell item would you bring back?
What flavor of Captain Crunch? There was a vanilla.
Double-decker
There was
taco.
Rice Krispie Treat cereal is gone, and I miss it.
Oh, man.
I know.
There's so many we could say.
Okay, we would really enjoy them. And trust us, we read all your comments, and we'd love to reply and banter back and forth with you. We have a brand new website where you can catch all the old episodes of what we've done with previous movies and classic movies, and it can be found at UntitledFilmProjectPod.com.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.